now the simple son, Tom Mahu Omer. Now, really, there's nothing simple about Tom, because Yaakov is called, first of all, the smartest of all the medieval commentaries is Rabbeinu Tam, the keenest of all the minds, the one who brought the dialectic approach to the study of the law, and he's the one who literally changed the study of Gemara forever. So he's the greatest, and he's called Rabbeinu Tam. So Tam, there's nothing necessarily simple about Tam. Tam can also mean pure or perfect. And who in the Bible is called Tam? Jacob. Yaakov Ish Tam Yoshevo Alim. Jacob is the man who dwells in the tents.
Yeah, but he was far from pure or perfect. Jacob.
That's maybe in according to the literal text, but according to the rabbinic understanding, Jacob was a man of purity and simplicity and modesty. So Jacob. So anyway, Tam is not necessarily a derogatory term. It's tamimus is an expression of like the sacrifice is tamim. It has to be a pure sacrifice in order to be worthy of coming to Hashem. So Tam is not necessarily the third level, after wise and then Tam. So let's see what the Tam Ma'u Omer, what does the Tam say? Mazos. He asks a simple question. I always feel like the simplest questions are the best questions. The simplest teachers are the best teachers. The teachers to be able to say something with simplicity is the most important thing, to be able to say something with simplicity. So Tam Ma'u Omer, Mazos. He says, what is this? And you respond back to him. Thank you, Hugh. You're going to join us?
Yes, sir.
We're studying the Haggadah. Here, you want to show him, Larry, you want to show him the place?
Yes.
Oh,
these are some of the first.
No, they're mine. I brought them there for everybody to see.
You could just take one, just whichever one.
Hugh, no, that's all.
They're all the same, but you just take.
No, take one in English. Take an English one.
There you go. That's going to help.
Okay, so thank you, Meyer. So he says, the Tom says, what is this? That's all he says. The Amarte love, and you say to him, Bechozek Yad, with a strong hand, God led us out of Egypt. With a strong hand, God led us out of Egypt from the house of slaves. So let's see what the Rebbe say. So Mordechai of Lechvich says, some view, this is what I was saying. Some view the simple son as on a higher level than the wise. They say, I know I must have read this. This is a Haggadah that I have in front of me, which I used when I was like 8 years old. And it says exactly what I just said. The Torah describes Jacob as a simple man, quote unquote, dwelling in tents. And our sages say that the tents of Torah. Simplicity connects the Jew to Torah and keeps him constantly in Torah's tents. If you don't by the way, things get difficult in life when we make them too complicated. When we make things complicated, that's how we have problems. If we just keep to the simple lessons of life, the simple things of life, like I was thinking now of Dan's father-in-law, he had a very simple approach to life. You do your job, you help people, go to synagogue, come home, that's it. He didn't make it too complicated. And L'olam Yayadam, you do the right things. I spoke to a man from Toledo today who was studying Torah. So don't overcomplicate things. That's basically what they're saying.
There's a very famous army expression that my dad used to say all
Yeah.
the time.
Kiss.
Kiss.
Yeah.
Keep it
Simple, stupid.
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. I never heard that, but I believe it. Okay.
Sweetie is better.
What?
Keep it simple, sweetie.
Oh, keep it simple, sweetie.
Maybe that's the Canadian version.
Yeah.
we're so polite.
It's the Israeli version.
No.
No, Israelis are not polite.
Okay. With a strong hand, with a strong hand, God led us out of Egypt from the house of slaves. So what does that mean? So the simple son, this is from Reb Shmuel of Alexander. The simple son cannot understand how he can relieve the exodus as desired of him. The Haggadah says, with a strong hand. He wants to know how he can relive the Exodus, which is what's desired. He wants to know, what's his question? How am I supposed to relive this Exodus? So the Haggadah says with a strong hand that the Jews' redemption from Egypt came from God's power, not through their own merit or efforts. So if you just rely upon God by sincerely dedicating yourself to God's service and relying on his power, that's how you can relive the Exodus. So, okay, that's what they say about the simple son. Anybody else have anything to add about the simple son? I feel like there's more there, but the two Haggadahs I have in front of me don't say anything else about it. Okay, so hold on one second. Okay. So then what happened next? All right, let's go up to the son who does not know how to ask. The son who does not know how to ask. At petacho, you open for him. As it states, you should talk to your son or tell your son on that day, saying, on account of this, God did for me when I left Egypt. On account, so what kind of son doesn't know how to ask? What does it mean he doesn't know how to ask? Maya, what does it mean he doesn't know how to ask?
He doesn't know how to ask. Basically, he doesn't know how to ask the very simple question is why? Why am I?
Oh, that's
Why am I in the situation I'm in? So this is a Berditchever said that he said that this is me. So whenever he got to this point, he says he knew that was him in its totality. Why?
he doesn't know how to ask, right?
He doesn't know how to ask. But he says, God, he says, look, he says, the enemies are gaining strength every day. Anti-Semitism,
Yeah.
the wars,
Yeah,
the economy, the politics, everything is going down the tube.
yeah.
He says, why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? He said, God, I'm not asking you profound questions. Why is there something instead of nothing? I don't want profound philosophical answers. He said, all I want to know is why is the suffering?
Why? Just a question of what. And I think you're right. I think it's exactly right. The most important thing with any subject is knowing which question to ask. Is it a question of why? Is it a question of how? Is it a question of when? I'm going on this trip to Saudi Arabia.
What's the meaning of his existence?
Right.
Why is his meaning so hard?
Exactly right. It's a question of why. So I was just telling you this story. And you're exactly right that he breaks it down to the fundamental question of why. So I was just going on this trip to Saudi Arabia, and this man called me up and he says, "When are you going?" I said, "No, that's not the question. The question is not when. The question is why." You have to always start. It's literally the last conversation I had before I came in here. It's not a question of when. It's a question of why.
My grandson, won't let go of that book. He took it up to his room.
He has a book.
He hasn't seen it. He's constantly researching.
Beautiful.
He got other books now about Saudi. Well, he's a geographer.
Yeah.
He's only 8 years old.
Judah. Yeah.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
So it brings, I think Viktor Frankl wrote in his book, right? It's if you know the why, then you'll find the how.
Oh, wow.
So
That's a book that Dan bought for the whole congregation.
And we have that.
And we have it in the yeshiva. Did you hear that phrase that he said? That
if you find the why, you'll find the how.
if you know the why, you'll find the how. Judah.
Yes.
You've added value to our discussion. Thank you.
I always do.
Yes. I'm not going to.
My wife disagrees with you.
If
He's yelling at me. No, he doesn't.
Yeah, no, I'm about to get into
Are you going to defend him?
just the opposite. I think he's the best.
Okay.
I think that this is the best son. The son who doesn't know how to ask is the son who comes to the table and he's saying, "Teach me." That's the son. That's the part of us that we all need to be. Like that we get, at least maybe I'm just speaking to myself, we get in our way. We prevent our spiritual growth by charming, calm, gun with how smart we are, and always thinking when the other person's talking, what are we going to say? Like, how are we going to respond? What are we going to say that's smarter, that shows that we're better, or whatever, or this? The son who doesn't know what to ask, he comes with his head down and he says, teach me. You have to, so he's saying to this parent or to his teachers, show me the way. He says to the tradition, show me the way. Yeah, Judah, you want to say something?
Yeah, and I saw on the internet a couple of days ago. I should have written it down. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said it's the 4 phases of what happened in Europe. First of all, everyone from Europe came in. In Europe, they were, of course, strict Orthodoxy.
I don't know about that. You said, of course. I don't know that that's true. By the way, they were just like us there in Europe. But okay, go on.
Well, maybe a little more compared to America. They weren't at that time, in the 30s, 40s. Then they come here, and because of work, whatever, they had to give up, to integrate and whatever. That's another son. So the first son is the Chacham in Europe. Then they come here, they give up a little bit.
Yeah.
Then the next step is, I think, this may be the one who does not ask, is that they forgot Torah education. And, it just got diluted. And I forgot what the 4th son is, but I think that might be that one. We have to read, and I think the 4th, whatever, there's a resurrection now in America. I mean, with the internet, you can't say you couldn't study. Impossible. Whatever language you want, there's thousands and millions of shurim going on the internet.
Yeah, no, exactly. But so, you could read it like that. You could read it as a progression of the Jewish people. They went from wise to wicked, like to rebelling, then to simple, and then even lesser. We don't even know how to ask, and then we're trying to revive. But I like to read it the opposite way, that you coming from the wise, and the person starts off wise, but from your wisdom, that can lead you to wickedness, unfortunately, too smart for your own good. And then after that, then you start to focus on the simple things. And then when you start to focus on the simple things, then all of a sudden you get to the highest level, which is now I'm ready to be taught. I mean, personally speaking, I prefer to be in a room with a person who doesn't think they're the smartest person in the room, and they think that they have something to learn from other people in the room. So that's the one who doesn't know how to ask.
But Tom is asking, Shana Rashol doesn't ask, you're saying he's asking, but he's not asking anything.
He's just saying, I'm here.
But he's not asking, teach me. He's not even saying that.
He's putting his head.
The best thing you could say about him is that he's at the table. You're elevating him to a level that I'm trying to get to see where we're elevating him and how he's not only not just the worst, but the best, just because he's at the table. Like, why can't we just accept the fact that he represents, the gullus of, what it is?
You could do that, but you could also say, just being at the table, I'm imagining a room where everybody's there, and he's saying, and he's there, and he wants to absorb. That's why he's there. Why else would he be there? He wants to absorb. That's why he's there.
And the food is good.
There's been no food yet at this point in the Seder, just a little karpas. He's there for the parsley. Come on. No. Come on, Judah.
So actually I agree what you say. It all comes from Pirkei Avos. You have to let your ego at the door. And, if you think the smartest guy in the room, that's not the right way to...
I mean, that's what I think. I'd rather be with the Sheni or the Elisha than with the Chacham. I hate to say it. Meyer wanted to say something. Yeah, Meyer. Judah? Yeah, Judah.
He's in Canada?
No, Rabbi Yosef is in Canada. Judah's in Riverdale. Everybody's welcome to his house. We don't want to say his address on the internet, but he's got a very, very sweet family, and they welcome you.
Oh, wow. No, because Samson Raphael Hirsch.
Yeah.
Exact opposite view. He says that the 4 sons represent the historical trend.
Yeah.
That is an inevitable trend. It almost has its own inertia.
Yeah.
It starts out with the Chacham. He says, starts out like the Avos.
Yeah.
They accepted everything, and they knew everything.
Yeah.
Second generation rebels.
Right.
The 3rd generation regresses, and then the 4th generation doesn't even know how to.
Yeah, they don't even know anything
anymore. So the conclusion he comes to is that, and this is a very Hegelian idea, further we get from the source, the more, the less is there, nothing is clear.
Nothing is,
So in
yeah,
other words, less holiness, the further we get from the
nice.
historical beginning, which is the Hasidic view anyway.
Oh,
But the obituary that I mentioned earlier.
yeah,
So he says that he says, God, I don't want to know about all the profundities. I don't want to know Kabbalah. I don't want to know Gemara. I said, just tell me, because all I know is that the world is awash in suffering. He says, why is there suffering in the world? He says, and at least, and the Berdicher, as you well know, talk to God as we talk to each other. He would pray. He would address God in like very personal terms, much more than Moses or any of these other people or any other prophets. Berdicher always fought for the Jewish people. He says, why do you do this to your people? Make himself. He says, God, just tell me one thing. He says, just tell me at least that all the suffering that I see around me of my people, and we're talking about the shtetls back then.
yeah,
People were really in a bad shape with all this stuff. He says, tell me at least that it's going in, it's in your name, that we're suffering for you.
yeah,
In other words, he doesn't want to take the existential view that, there's meaningless suffering in the world, which is, the Hindu, that version of the world, the suffering is just part of everything.
yes, Shakoach. Thank you, Rameyer. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. We have here some beautiful Hasidic explanations that it says, what does it say? At, it's you, but why doesn't it say ata? You can talk about that at your Seder. Why is it in the feminine? So this is what Mordechai Yaakov says. The Haggadah uses the word you in the feminine, implying that it's the obligation of opening, educating the children who are too young to ask, lies on the women. That's what they say. They're telling the women, you don't like that, Seth. Could be, I don't know. That's what Mordechai Yaakov says. But you know what? Whether or not you like their answer, you have to understand, why does it say at there in the feminine? You have to address that question. And then another one, you refers to So Menachem Mendel of Rimanov, I believe he was a Talmud of Rabbi Melech. You can look him up. I believe he was a Talmud of Rabbi Melech. You can look him up, Rabbi Yosef. I think he was a Talmud. He says, who's the you referring to? God. That we pray if a Jew sees somebody so insensitive that he doesn't even want to ask questions, he should pray to God to open him up. Pray to God to open him up. And now,
This is your husband?
yeah. All these were the ones, I didn't find them in minces. These are all ones that I brought.
These are highlights, the fourth son. He said that's the main reason that we have the Seder and Pesach and everything. He says because
It's just for the fourth son.
yeah,
Beautiful.
This is the fourth son. Why? He says because that's the Masorah. He says without the Masorah man needs to communicate.
Yeah.
So if the kid asks you the question, or he doesn't have the question, says you don't initiate, then you miss the whole.
By the way,
Says you have to start the Masorah. You have to give him the tradition.
beautiful.
You have to start the thing rolling, and without that, there isn't anything. That's the whole idea of Pesach.
Right, exactly right. The whole purpose of it. Yeah, Rabbi Yosef is raising his hand. Yeah.
Yes, he is a Talmud of Rabbi Melech.
Yeah, the Talmud of Rabbi Melech. So the son who doesn't know how to ask, alternatively, this is Rabbi Chaim Eliezer of Munkacher. He says the at refers to the letters from Aleph to Tav. You heard that? That you teach him everything, or else you teach him about the letters of the Torah. Teach him about the letters of the Torah that you start at the beginning. Teach him how to spell, how to write, and then okay. And also, who else could it refer to? The son who doesn't know how to ask. Baruch of Mezbish. He was, I believe, the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. I believe so many Chassidus rabbis, I often mix them up. But I believe he was the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. I was at his grave, Baruch Mezbish. That this is interpreted to be a symbol of the Jews in Egypt. They didn't know how to ask, and God took them out of bondage. So just like they didn't know how to ask, and God took them out of bondage, so too we have to have a way to engage with those who don't know how to ask. Yeah, Jerry Sheckman is raising his hand patiently.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your first explanation of At. The explanation before you explained that At means God, is Shekhinah. What was the first?
The first explanation is that the reason why it's in the feminine is because we're addressing the mothers at the table and saying it's your job to teach the children who are especially young. That was the primary, the teaching of the youngest children was primarily the responsibility of the mother. That's what Torah. Yeah, you have to listen to the Torah of your mother. Okay, now we're up to Reb Shmuel of Sachachavar. He says, At petacho. Why does it mean you open up for him? That's another phrase. By the way, the Sheini and Lishol is a lot to talk about. Why does it say at petacho? You pesacho, you open up for him. Why the expression open up for him? By using this expression, God is implying that a teacher's responsibility is not to give the information to the students, but to stimulate the students, to get them to be interested so that they could be able to learn for themselves. See, that's what's called a brilliant, simple explanation. Pesacho, you just open it up. You don't have to give all the answers. You don't try, and this is, by the way, real world advice for those who are reading their Seder. Don't try to cram everything into the Seder. That should not be the purpose of your Seder. The purpose of your Seder should not be to convey the information, but to stimulate and inspire and excite. That's what the best teachers do. Because the best learning is the learning that goes on the person's self, where they are motivated to open up their own book. This is what Rameir of Parmesan says. Not one of the four sons. You see, this is what I was saying, by the way. Rameir of Parmesan said not one of the four sons is a tzaddik. A tzaddik has no questions. Anyway, a similar point was made by Reb Tzvi of Rimenov, who stated, this is what see. I knew that, Seth, everything I said, I must have read when I was 8, and it's coming back to me. He says, the She'ena Yodei Lishol, the son who doesn't know how to ask, does better than them all. This concept is related in the following story. One year, Rabbi Yisachar of Belz introduced many changes of the Seder in order to provoke questions from his son and his successor of Aaron of Belz. Though all the assembled were puzzled by the Rebbe's behavior, his son remained silent. Finally, his father asked him, have you noticed the changes? He said, Rav Aaron said, if anyone else had done these things, I get goosebumps when I read this. He says, if anyone else had done these things, I would have asked, Rav Aaron replied. But to my father, I have no questions. I rely on him in everything he does. It's about a question of like a faith in Hashem Yisbarach, a faith, a pure faith. You know, like the whole world, like our world today, everybody's on Twitter, like snark. That's like everybody wants to do snark and outshine the other. The She'ena Yodei Lishol is putting his head down and is saying to his father or his mother, show me the way. All right, we're going to stop here and pray the Mincha prayer, but after Mincha, we're going to do special Tehillim